Meeting to order. We'll stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I apologize, don't have the minutes from the pre-town meeting. I will have them for our next regular meeting. I've just been busy. We do have the minutes for September 20th.
Motion to approve the minutes from September 20th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any errors or discussions? I will put the Collins memo on our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So,
I don't know if I can though, I wasn't here.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, all right.
It's just a motion.
if, I'll give everybody a. Everyone all set?
Amy seconded.
Yeah, I seconded.
No, I know the
I
motion's
looked at
made, I
them.
just
Yeah,
didn't-
Russ.
I didn't know, Mike, are you reading the minutes, or are you all set?
No, I'm
or-
good.
You're all set?
Yep, no discussion.
I'm all set.
All right, made and seconded on the motion. Mike,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Yes. Next item is the upcoming budget meeting schedule, which probably will start, I don't know, January or sometime. Carter sent out an email wanting to get thoughts on either having it over several nights. Last year, well, we had a couple of snow events, so it got stretched out for a couple of weeks. His thoughts, do it on a Saturday, or just do it in one day. That's a fun time. It's
Right.
just, it's a fun time doing that, so, I thought I would leave that. You wanna have a vote on it, just what feelings are.
Are they
people?
asking for our opinion?
Yeah, do they want our opinion?
Well, yeah.
Yes,
The
okay.
email said as some discussion doing it on a Saturday, run this by the group to see if there's any interest in doing it.
Like a one and done.
A one and done, do it on a Saturday, and that would be, you know, his initial hours are 8:30 to 4. This past season, we did it on Monday and a Tuesday. There was a snow, so we did it on a Thursday. Then the next week, I think it was like stretched out over 3 weeks, 3 days a week. Like I said, there was a couple of snow things that happened, and it got pushed off, but the year before, I think it was 3 days in 1 week, and then the next week, there was a couple. And it's like a selectmen's meeting up until about like 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. It's held here, so.
So we could do it for 3 weeks, 3
Well-
nights a week, from 6 to 10,
That's, I mean, in the past,
Or we could
that's
just do it on a
that's the
Saturday
days
from
that we were doing.
8 to 4.
Just, yeah, come in and tough it out.
I'd rather do a Saturday, frankly. It's much harder for me personally to block Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, then it snows, so now you don't have to, but then
And
Thursday.
this past year, yeah, there was only 2 of us that made it to all the meetings.
Pretty much the only day I can guarantee that I won't travel is Saturday.
That's kind of the same
Right.
with me.
Yeah.
The only thought I had with a Saturday is, by the end of the day, I don't want to say careless, but do you kind of get, okay, I just want to get this over with, but
Sort of like at town meeting, towards
Yeah.
the end of the
Mhm.
meeting, people just go,
I think this is more important, and so maybe focus would be there, but,
Yeah, you have a vested crowd.
yeah.
We'll have one of the kids run for coffee.
Okay. We have multiple
Yeah,
drivers.
we do.
They did
I
also
like
mention
Saturday, yeah.
bringing lunch in, whatever that may be. So, I mean, there would be a break. I mean, it wouldn't be sitting at the table
Yeah.
for 6, 7 hours.
Yeah, you got Patriots right there, Reno's, Cumberland Farms right across the way.
Yep.
I like
Hot dogs
Saturday.
over at Cumbies.
Hmm?
They have hot dogs over at Cumbies.
Tony's treat.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
All right. So,
I think I would prefer a Saturday.
one and done type of
Yeah.
deal.
Yep.
Just, and I know you, like you said, travel, you need a guarantee.
Same thing with me.
Same,
I don't
yeah.
usually travel on Saturdays, but
Then I will convey that we, our opinion is, Saturday would be a good idea. I'll email that to Carter tonight. So,
That's glass nose for you.
Today's Thursday, though. He won't see that till Monday, yeah?
well,
Thursday night.
he might,
Text them right now.
he might answer.
and if you don't get done in a single Saturday, then
Then it'll
You
be the
finish
weeknights, yeah.
either a weeknight or
Right,
Yeah.
but probably not.
It
on
said,
this
it's,
meeting.
I know this past, the first year it went kind of quick. It was the first year that we did it, and there wasn't a lot of questions and stuff, because you're seeing the stuff for the first time, and they went through it pretty. This year it was, I said, some of the time extended was because of the weather, a couple of events just happened. I said, I won't be here tomorrow if it's doing what it's doing, and it got bad enough and they canceled it and went to another week. And it infringed on one of our meeting nights, but it was either be here doing this or be at that meeting, so.
Yep.
So one and done is the,
Yeah, we'll throw our vote at it anyway, because there's other people who get to chime in, so.
yeah. Alrighty. The next item is the latest, and they gave us a complete one, and they emailed just Kelly had emailed the expenditure, and then Carter put in our folder, the complete presentation with the memo and all the rest. I wish they would just email the whole thing. They have in the past, it seems like sometimes it's a hit or miss. You get the expenditure, but you don't get the memo and the others, and this may be because I think Kelly and Luann were out. I'm not sure, but a hard copy is more inclusive. With the treasurer information. where the one that it was emailed, was just the expenditure report.
Yep.
When it's on the page one, expenditure trends, when it goes through each of them, is she just listing out what she's, the bills that were paid? Like it lists them out, but like Selectmen, MMA, Advisory, Vadar.
It says it's because those categories are over 25% for the first
Oh,
quarter.
Yeah, those are those items that, then sometime there's a chunk of money that just sits there or disappears in the first month because it's a,
Okay.
it's a one-time fee that gets just paid all at once, or.
This is why I guess I'd reiterate again, I would love to see them come up with yearly spend plans. So you know if, okay,
Great.
is they have allocated X amount, they've spent so much within 2 or 3 months, is that normal?
Yeah.
Because even the trends, if it's something that happens every year, I don't really consider it a trend. It's just a bill due, like
Then you
Vadar.
know. Yeah,
That's
like
not
the
a
health
trend,
insurance, it used to
yeah.
just pay it up, boom.
Right, so, that's just my thought, I don't think we can really change that to ask the departments to say, I know I spend $5,000 a month on salary. So you can say, okay, they spent $2,000 or $10,000 this month, but we know 5 of it went to salary. And so,
It would be a projection thing to compare with it, and then you would, if you see, like you said, big chunk, well, this is spent, or should have been spent on this and this.
right, but if I look back at, say, last month's, and they had spent $4,000, and this month they had spent 7, without the details of really what they spent it on, that could be very normal. That could be, well, you know what, we had, heating oil that we had to pay for, or whatever the case
Yeah,
may be.
or, a license fee came in.
Right.
So, the one thing that I did see was a special article finally. Don't know if it went on this particular truck, but last year, which would have been in 17 for fiscal 18, was a dump body for the 1984 Mack 10-wheeler. I think that truck, I thought there was one truck that went kaput. But the money is showing it has been spent. Whether we have a truck with an older truck with a new body on it, or what. And Carter was out, he didn't come in until today, I believe.
Well, that'd be terrible if they spent $17,000 on a dump body on a truck that doesn't work.
That's actually, well, depending on what it was, that's not bad, but if it was just a straight body, it is a little pricey. They show the article for the cruiser and the dump truck, the one that was gonna be paid for out of, I think, meals tax.
Oh, yeah.
They show the money that was appropriated, 42,000. But I saw in the weekly administrative report that they don't expect that 1 ton until February, March. Or maybe they actually bought the truck and it's going to, because they generally go to an outfitter, and whatever their schedule is, whether they sent the truck there and now they order all the accessories that they're gonna put on it. And this is the time of the year that if you order snowplow stuff, it's gonna take a while, cause this stuff you order like in the spring, or even in the late winter. But that new 6-wheel dump truck they finally have it. chunk of money for the fire engine was spent. So some of the special articles that have been sitting here for a couple of years or more have, I don't know what, Gilman Waite had been sitting, that money's sitting there. What I would have to look up 13, what that was for. But it hasn't been touched yet. And I think some of these things are in the process. I believe the Templeton Center Fire Station roof is in the process or is begun. The mini split AC's been sitting there for over a year. So. So by, let's see, I think in December, I know the selectmen have a tax classification hearing advertised. So they will be determining if we have a single tax rate or a multiple tax rate. And then the work will be, it's probably the tax recap sheet, the assessors should be well along. So,
Have to review it on my own, there's some things I don't understand.
if there's any,
Is there direct correlation, like selecting MMA membership, that's why.
there's anything
others
really
spend
bad that
It's the
jumps
gifts.
out.
It's the gifts I
Anyone.
don't understand.
Yeah.
Police
Okay,
gift,
that the
library gift,
highway, like-
donations.
On this one, the highway improvement fund, like it was negative and now it's more
All
negative.
these trusts and stuff, I don't.
Yeah,
Chapter
yeah.
90, I believe they are,
It's just
page is that?
what other people
10 of 15.
allocated and
Yeah, that's one that,
actually nothing to spend. So.
the state tells them how much money they get. And then when you do a project, you have to submit the paperwork, cause it's almost like a grant type of thing.
Okay.
And I know there's one that they missed
Maybe they.
the deadline on the paperwork, and
these-
they had to,
Recycling
Do it
revolving
over.
expense,
Yeah.
like that one makes
uh,
sense to me.
So just paperwork
Right.
that needs to get corrected, and once it
Yeah,
does,
and-
then
I think
that
here's
will
one,
go positive.
Hamilton Expendable Trust,
Which page?
13.
I'm just curious.
and it's, again, it's one of those hard ones to track, 'cause it shouldn't be, but I don't think they've gotten,
Money that the town has to expend.
because some of the paperwork was filed late,
Okay.
I don't think that one is
The money in a
100%
trust for
accurate.
use for something, right?
I could email the accountant and
it could be for very
get a straight shot on that one.
library books or
I'm
Right.
going off the information that was in the administrator's
Library
report
gift expenses,
from
$331,000.
2 weeks ago, I think.
I'd like to know more about
I know the Bridge Street project, the paperwork wasn't filed on time. And sometimes that's a timing thing, if you don't get it in by a certain date, then it will wait till next year to get charged, to get reimbursed for it.
trusts.
And if, otherwise, and then it shows up on,
Right.
a negative, on our allocations, on the cherry sheets, the charge-offs and stuff, and it's, I don't know why municipal can't be simple like business, but it's always like behind and
Okay.
intermingled. But like I said, I do know there was, for sure, the Bridge Street wasn't, the paperwork wasn't completed either properly or on time. And they're supposedly making some progress on, Route 68. I know that came up in discussion at the special town meeting of, taking so long and stuff, but, there wasn't, I saw there was the notation, I think it was last week's, administrative report that, a phase has been done, but that's on the tip list, and you're dealing with the state, and that just, it takes a long time. It's a road project that shouldn't take 5 years, but when you submit it, and it's the timing thing and where it gets stuck on the list, and it is what it is. But I will email the accountant to see about chapter 90. And again, it's kind of vague and not lacks detail, so it's kind of hard to track and to figure out where, as a category, but, legal is bundled into the purchase of services, so when it shows they spent X amount of dollars, there's like 4 things in there that it could have been spent on.
Which for which?
For the selectmen's, under the selectmen's,
What page?
on the page 1,
Okay.
where it has employee support, purchase of services and supplies, that's 66,000 allocated. That's legal. I think it's membership due. There are like 4 things that are stuck in there, and it's in that budget book.
Yeah, that's why and that's their line item where we were saying, no, you're not getting any more
Yeah,
money.
and that's,
And they asked for like, what was it, 5, 10
5,000.
grand?
Yeah, for legal, yeah.
yeah,
Show us why you haven't expended what you.
and, they,
Did that pass?
well, in my opinion, at town
It
meeting, they
passed.
did kind of a song and dance, sidestep that issue, but as far as explaining it, so the almost $7,000 has been spent out of it, but
Yeah.
you gotta spend some time tracking it down, and it used to be listed as a separate line,
Yeah.
legal expense was listed, so you could see it in the expenditure report. but since they started just combining, it makes it easier for one side, but very difficult for people to see where their money is going.
Jeff, do you feel when the advisory board at a town meeting makes a recommendation, especially if it's contra to what, if we vote a no recommendation, do you think it's effective the way that we're presenting the information? Personally? I think it's good that we're able to publish something and then say it, when we give our
Yeah.
event. I just try and judge the feeling within the meeting, whether they're taking into consideration. I don't expect people to be like, oh, when we say that we don't recommend against it. I'm just wondering is there any other methodology that we could come up with to say, here's why we don't recommend.
That would be it, and a written explanation
Yeah,
type of
which I
thing.
thought was good. I thought you did a really good job with that.
If we maybe, of course, this special town meeting, like I said, we were gonna get their approved warrant on one day, and then, 2 days later, because it was just they chose to have the special town meeting on our meeting night. So it was,
Yeah.
the calendar thing, it's just a timing thing. I mean, we could have potentially did it on that Monday, it was a holiday, but, then you look at the opening, it was just, we were short, as far as having time to look at things,
Mhm.
and put together.
I thought we were fairly well prepared to be able to explain our reasons.
Hopefully if we do a one-day thing on the budget, I think we would have more time to discuss it at our meetings, and
Oh,
up
I
with a
agree.
better,
100% agree with that.
spend a little more time on our reasoning and presentation, or recommendations,
Mhm.
instead of trying to come up with them in one night or two,
Yeah.
maybe several. And again, it depends on when we get the final warrant that's posted,
Mhm.
so we can actually, 'cause it's happened, but it's kinda hard to make a recommendation on something if you don't have a definitive answer on what you're recommending. We're waiting on this number, and we're not gonna get that until this time. Well, our bylaw says up to, 2 days before, we're supposed to have something in writing to give available to the people.
Mhm.
And if we wanna follow the bylaws, we had to do something. And again, at that time, we put a footnote that we recommend for being aware of, this reason.
Right.
And again, I thought the moderator this time, he let me put out the spiel of why we
I thought that was
recommended
effective, yeah.
where, and I think he's just getting more comfortable in the job. I think a couple of town meetings before that, it was just, I started to give an explanation, and he just said, no, I just want your recommendation, yes or no. Okay, so, but.
No, it went better
It
this
was a little,
time.
it was better, it's getting a little better. Derek's I think he's getting a little
Okay.
more comfortable with the job and, what to do. But, yeah, like I said, I think
And
this
comfortable
year.
with us too, yeah.
and we'll have a little more time, hopefully,
Yep, I agree.
to spend on recommendations and wordsmithing to inform, and hopefully more people will show up.
Yep.
It's just hard when all those minimum requirements are stuck to. And it's another instance where it would be really nice to be able to work together with the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to say, hey, our meeting's on Thursday. Is there any way you can get us a document this time? And, we'll get it back to you by this time. And so I think we're starting to
So,
open those channels of communication.
all we can do is keep asking and
That's
keep
right.
trying.
That's right.
We're still looking at the report. I guess I'm looking at the gifts and donations areas. These are specified gifts and donations made to the municipality. like, I'm looking at page 7. We've got skate park, police gift, hospital cottage, library. These are grants or gifts made to the town with, basically the string attached that it's used for specified purposes.
Like-
So, library gift expenses, $331,000. There's, the library understands that they can use that for operating expenses, capital improvements, or otherwise, I would assume.
I believe that was a big donation given to them, and I think there was one, it was some given to the library, and I think some given to the police department
From like, estates,
from an estate, yeah.
yeah,
It's like one, somebody left their house and property to the town.
yeah.
The skate park was, it was at the Templeton Center School area, and there was money raised trying to get it improved and buy some stuff, and then now that's gone.
Yeah, it is.
So, but this money is sitting here, and, you know, I don't know if you can track down everybody who, you know, donated what and give it back, or at some point in time, something's gonna, you know, it's gonna have to be something done, either have, build another
Right.
skate park someplace, or.
Well, and us as a, advisory body, we can kind of look at those things to say, hey, this is out there, this is left out there hanging. And we can kind of help with monitoring their expenditures, whether they're not doing it in a timely way.
Yeah.
More to Tony's point of having a spend plan to say who's responsible for it and when do they expect to expend,
I don't
expend
know
it.
if I mentioned this before or not, but some of these gifts and things were given way back for things that if you tried to do it today, like, I think there's one, I don't know if it's the hospital cottages, but there was one gift given, it's for, out of wedlock, mothers,
Okay.
everything. And that's what it's tied to.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of these little gifts and things that are sitting there.
yeah, the
And they
hospital
generate-
cottage is only at $374.
And any interest they generate, it's like, what are you gonna do with it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was my next question. Who gets the interest on that?
I would think the
It's
gift does.
Like specified, I think some of them, they just keep putting it into the fund because it's not enough to spend it on anything.
Interesting.
And it was looked into a few years back to see if they was, legally get the stuff cleared, but the legal cost was gonna be so high, I think the decision was, well, just let it sit there.
I think
But
a lot-
if you got $5,000 total worth of stuff and you're gonna spend 20, so you can get that 5,000, so you can use it for something, it
Mhm.
was like, but at some point, like the skate park money, I mean, otherwise, it just sits there.
So, but I think is when someone gives a gift or they raise money for a specific thing, it has to be used for that
Yep.
specific thing. You can't go use it for something else unless the person that gave that gift said, you know what, I gave this for the skate park. It's not gonna happen. The town can put it in their general fund or whatever. So that's the thing I think with the gifts
Yeah,
is
it's-
they're
but
specific.
There's a lot of these small little things here that've been sitting, for years and years and years, long time. And like I said, some of them are in the day when you could do what they did, and today's you can't do that,
Yeah.
so.
Well, at least we have accounting for them.
But
And then some of the named ones, I think that's really, like the J. Hadley Expendable Trust, the N. Hadley Expendable Trust, J. Richardson Expendable Trust. Those all have to have some kind of rules along with them to, what are they being
think so.
used for? I'd be interested to see if there's any kind of matrix that, or a listing, if she maintains like a,
Should have.
this is the J. Hadley Expendable Trust, this is what triggers the expenditure of the remaining balance of $750. If they have
Or what it can be used for.
Yeah, or if they don't have, if they're so low and they're not gonna be able to be used in scope with what they were originally donated for, what the town can do. And I hear what you're saying about the legal aspect, but can the town decide whether by initiative otherwise to liquidate those funds for something in, you know, like
Yeah.
a similar process, like, hey, these people wanted it to go to maintaining the gazebo on the town green, but the Lions are taking care of that. So maybe they take the donation and they, you know, they paint the gazebo. I'm just using that as an example.
And I think some of the other stuff, the idea was to try to track down any family members of
Right,
the original
right.
thing to see if they would sign off. But again, you
That's all legwork.
Well, if it,
you
right,
need
but if
so-
it's,
yeah, you need somebody that has the expertise or the time to do all
if
that
it's an
stuff.
existing trust, that the trust is still enacted, there should be a trustee, that is the legal person who determines what happens with that
Yeah.
trust.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a lawyer, sometimes it's a family member,
But, yeah, there's
it could be a
just
bank.
only been on the books for
Okay.
as long as I can remember. Just,
I'd love to have a cheat sheet for what they're for.
I know some towns actually vote people in to run trusts.
Yep. Please vest grant, you know, wherever that came from, you know, what their plan is to buy, level 4 or whatever they're using for vests these days. Anyway, I don't need to go on.
It would also be something to know if there was any way we could roll any of these monies, even the little ones, like the $750 one, roll it into something else, because we're doing it just in a different way.
Yeah.
Can we contact that trust? Can we get permission to do it? It's a nominal amount.
Mhm. I couldn't agree more.
And I think like you said, was it a much bigger amount, and now it's been spent down to this, to where there's really nothing to spend it on?
Right.
Right,
So to consolidate it, like Amy's saying,
Yeah.
but, you know, how can you do that?
right.
Like town council could say, yeah, it was donated to the town, if the town winds up saying, based on the reasons or otherwise, at town meeting, they're like, yeah, we vote to like, almost
Oh,
like a
yeah,
transfer,
like-
like a transfer.
Right, and like the $12 from Uber or whatever, like, that's like a nominal amount, but we had to vote on it.
Right.
So, I wonder if that's an option for any, I mean, who knows? Good God, this is probably the wrong thing to be talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't wanna belabor it.
no, and it does come up every once in a while, this money just sitting there, and people wanna know.
And there's a lot of them, so it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
If they even tell you.
right.
I mean, that someone in the town should know, though.
I don't have any other questions about the report.
No.
You don't need any votes or anything, we just move on to the next agenda item.
All right, is there anything else on there? No.
I don't, that was the only thing I was really
Well said,
interested
yeah.
in.
I am
Okay. All right, since it was most of our first time as at a town meeting on the committee, I'm just wondering your thoughts on how things, if you were there or if you watched it. Good points, bad points, things look good, was the voter guide, our recommendations in there, the warrant not there, the lack of reading the articles entirety. Just thoughts on,
That's a really good point about whether you should read the whole thing or not. I mean, that goes to, I don't the selectmen are trying to move it along, and they do have it written in front of them, but you almost feel like it's in front of you, read it, and you don't wanna insult their intelligence, but at the same, I get where they're coming from. I think the people in attendance, not that many, felt like it was moving too fast, and they wanted to hear the article read like some kind of proclamation, whereas they had, you know, a very well-prepared document to read from.
my personal thing with it, is we have a general bylaw that says Town Meeting Times is the guide for conducting town meeting business. And I got this, well, for a couple of reasons. One reason, I was having a little disagreement with the moderator on a few of his rules. But since it states that this is our guide for a town meeting, I looked up the reading of articles. And it talks about some towns don't read the articles to move it along and this and that. Of omitting the reading of the articles with the consent of the meeting or by tradition. It suggests if reading of the articles is to be omitted, the warrant should be printed and in the hands of or available to every voter. And I take that as, it's not the voter's guide, it's the warrant that has to be published. And I know traditionally, up until a couple of years ago, a warrant was always available at town meeting. It was always there. And I just, I know what the idea is. You want to sit there and read 7 pages of stuff. I've had to read a few long articles as a selectman. I read a few long ones being on the advisory committee. And, no, it's not fun, but I think that's one time where you have to, and there were some people that wanted the article read, and then I think they basically got, you know,
The only one that wouldn't have made sense is the dog bylaw one. That was pages long to talk about dog poop.
the things I would like to be pointed out, and I kind of tossed that in our recommendation was, they were increasing the fees
Yeah,
for licenses and the fines. They went from like 25 to 100
Yeah.
to 200, 300. I mean, it's,
I thought they were excessive.
to me, I mean, those are things that they should read. Maybe I'm just being old-fashioned about it, but again, I look at the bylaw, and the bylaw says, this is our guide, and this states in it, you should do this. Maybe they should have request a vote of the town meeting right at the beginning of the meeting, whether you read the articles. Like sometimes, a lot of towns, articles they do every year. You know, reports of the committees, this, that, the reading of the article twice. You know, anybody object to not doing that, or only reading the article once? The first few articles, it's like every year, it has to be there, you know, do away with the reading of the article. You vote on it. You get the opportunity to say, no, we don't want to read it, or no, we want you to read it. That's what I think should happen, but, because I know they're trying to move the meeting along, and there's not a lot of residents there, and it almost feels like people are going there, and, yeah, just let's get done with it. Maybe that's a trend of the times. Then I look at other towns like Ashburnham, and there's some towns, they still have a town meeting where they have discussion and sometimes downright get boisterous. That was my takeaway. To Mike's point, though, on the annual town meeting, our recommendations and stuff, if we can put more to get the people to maybe pay more attention or look at our recommendations, or maybe consider them and have a little more discussion on things.
Right.
Especially, you know, with spending a big chunks of money or changing bylaws or things like that. The article I thought they got a little discussion was that new building code. You know, people, that and the private road thing got some talk and stuff, but people didn't like our recommendation, but that's fine, that's,
Well, we got a little derailed when the gentleman from the sewer commission for the, what was it, the audit for employment contracts, Article 6,
yes.
when he offered a new
substitute
reading a
motion.
new article, and it was, it required town council, and it kinda, we knew we were gonna wind up taking a pretty good pause, because that was gonna require town council to say, yeah, it works the way that he's rewriting it.
Well, and actually, that was,
And that failed anyway, so.
but I've seen that, someone asked before and they were told no. So the town council going down there and correcting his wording to make sure it would be, if it passed, if town meeting got behind it, and it didn't, but,
Well, if they need it, then, they can work on the collaboration, so if they're gonna bring it back to,
again, yeah.
annual town meeting, that they have a well-written article, rather than, it's all the TA or it's all the department heads. And I think that was the battle line that was drawn.
It's the different elected boards that have authority
Right.
by town meeting vote passed, such
Yeah.
as the.
I don't think it was their intent to do that. I think it was the specific boards that had, a little bit of autonomy, rather than some of the boards that are a little bit more consolidated to what's going on in the town. So I think there wasn't any separation out, there wasn't any specificity for it. So I think annual town meeting, they may come back with something that's gonna work for them.
A different approach or something, or worded a little better. But,
And they lost control. I mean, I think they lost control in the beginning of the meeting. They were very well prepared, and then it just lost control. And Steve Drury doesn't make it easy if he's gonna get up for every article on record.
Surprisingly, though, he brings some very good town meeting points.
He does.
up sometimes. He should find maybe someone to speak for him or help in his presentation and be up on the procedures and stuff, because that's where I think that.
By now, I
he
would
brings
have that
up.
expectation. I've been to quite a few town meetings, and I know he's
But
gonna
he
get
does
up
bring
and
up
speak, so he should know them by
He
now.
brings some things that are, I think that about, like,
Yep.
the bylaw, if there's somebody in violation and the fines are adding up, it's just nobody wants to deal with it. I mean,
Right.
that's a valid thing. It's just his presentation side and knowing the procedures of town meeting.
Yep.
Need polishing, but.
Agreed.
But he does bring up, I mean, the reputation that he has, he does bring up, I think, some things that are good for town meeting. It's just, I think his reputation or thoughts on him precede him and everybody
Yep.
just, but,
I haven't seen him kicked out yet, so he must be doing something right.
I saw him escorted out at one meeting a few years back, but
Alright.
since then, no, he's just, and the moderator's trying to
Yep.
work with him, I mean, give him
Excellent
his
patience.
opportunity to
Yep.
talk, but, it's an interesting meeting, I'll give him that. I know capital planning has started to meet, I don't know.
Yes.
um, If you could.
We're in the, so just a quick back brief. Schedule-wise, we're right in the middle. We have several of the like DPW, they've got a lot on there. The last meeting, we had the sewer department. Mr. Harris goes by Rich or Rick, Emergency Services.
Yeah, Rich.
He didn't show up, so we have to kind of reschedule him. But everything's going fine. I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary. Sewer department was looking for some, for next year, they want to, in using their own funds, they want to redo some of the paving around their compound.
Yeah, 'cause the parking lot down there. leaves
Yeah,
a
it's
little
pretty, it's
desired.
pretty tight. Just looking for the schedule. Just to kind of give everybody some feedback. There we go. All right, so. Yeah, we've got at least, we start back up again November 6th, 13th, December 4th, 11th, 18th, so we're just starting out. Some of the bigger ones like fire EMS are next week, and DPW is gonna be the biggest, and I can't find when I think they're mid-December. Any questions or?
No, I was just interested in, seeing, you know, what things are, if there was anything, like, surprisingly or jumping out.
Not
you know.
yet. I think some of the bigger departments, that'll be some good conversations to see if they have anything new. But right now, other than the sewer department adding something, a good point to note is the Pleasant Street Station work is, I want to say the work is near completion. And Kent said, that sucker's gonna last as long as you want it to last. So usually they have a 50-year life cycle. And he basically, he didn't use these words, but he said, he basically rescinded the life cycle requirements from a capital planning point of view, and to say this thing's gonna last longer than the expected 50-year. So they came off. I mean, they use their own enterprise funds, but they basically came off the capital planning tracker because of that. So money well spent. The USDA, I think it was a USDA loan. Yep, money well
That's what
spent,
they're
and we're
gonna-
gonna have a very nice facility. And we got an earful on how sewer operations run. So if you haven't seen that on YouTube and you wanna know about pumps and aerators,
There's so many jokes in there right there. I'm gonna refrain.
yep. So that's my report from capital planning.
Alrighty. This Saturday is the annual Finance Committee meeting. This year, it's at Fort Devens, which is close. The gas station, Dunkin' Donuts and stuff, and then there's the restaurant on the common. It was in the hotel that's in the back area back there. It's right off the main drag, so it's pretty easy to get to. It's a lot closer than it was
It's the only plaza in
last
Devon.
year. So,
I'm registered.
I'm registered.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I did not register.
I remember
Are
to
you
put it
gonna go?
on.
I don't think so. I don't think I can.
Oh, nice.
If you've registered, fine. If you haven't registered, you can register the day of.
Yeah.
You go in and they'll give you they have available the CD with the latest handbook, Finance Committee handbook, if they've done any updates or anything on it. And I have like bagels and coffee and junk in the morning
And junk.
and junk, stuff, things, you know. It's not not ham and eggs or bacon or any of that
No,
stuff.
no.
But no, there's a brunch thing, muffins, coffee, water, and stuff like that. And there's the lunch. The lunch was pretty decent last time I went. The only downfall is a lot of the presentations, they happen at the same time, so
pick one.
sometimes one year it's like, oh, you go to legal, what do you wanna go? I wanna go to the legal one.
Mhm.
Go to this one, go to that one.
Oh,
pick
interesting.
one,
Am I the only one not registered?
things like that, and, and then they have lunch, and then in the afternoon, they have a few others, and
I don't think everyone was.
generally
Oh,
the
we have to
present,
go.
the
It was basically. an elective.
presenters, they'll talk to you after the thing, and if you got anything you wanna bring up, you ask them on the side. It is pretty interesting, and you get a spiel at the beginning, what's going on with Alan Tussey will be, I think he's speaking at the beginning, and I know he's got one of the courses.
Yeah.
He's an interesting guy to speak. He's been on Finance Committee. for
I
a long
updated the
time.
calendar item and I put the agenda in there, so you can have that on your phones or something.
But like I said, if you haven't, if you haven't registered, you can register the day of, and pay.
45
If
bucks.
it's your first time, I think it's
45.
45, and if you've been before, it's like 55. You can fill out a reimbursement sheet for the town, from the town to turn in. So, that is that. Lastly, got a bill for the pre-town meeting advertisement, so I'll put that on the next agenda. The Collins memo. I'll run the spending plan thing to the town administrator. I will email the accountant about the chapter 90 thing.
Yep, you're talking about that next week, right?
Or, yeah, the next meeting.
Yep.
A week, 2 weeks.
What was the agenda item you said before the Collins memo, Jeff?
The first thing would be to pay our invoice for our advertising for the pre-town meeting.
Oh, okay, roger that,
Yeah.
got it.
I'll see if the TA has any thoughts on the trust funds as far as action that could be taken, finding
Be a
out,
good-
you know, the specifics and what for and what would be involved in, you know, the small ones that have been there for just sitting there doing it.
Thanks.
And see if there's anything, I think they're having a presentation at the next selectmen's meeting about the pavement management study, as far as,
Or did they already have
I
one?
think what it's gonna be is, yep, your roads are bad, this is how much it's gonna cost, and, it's gonna take a heck of a long time to
Mhm.
get to them, and then, you know.
And the good ones will be bad again.
That was actually the last week. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know he talked about it in his memo, so, his weekly memo. I know Winchendon, they did some pretty decent stuff through this study. But it's the plan, it's the money, and getting it done. Does anyone have any requests or additional things they want? If you think of something, you can just email me. Trying not to have agenda with 20 long things on it, but if there's stuff that's relatively quick, it just needs a mention or so.
No, a lot of the, our own documentation Will had taken on, so maybe, I don't know, if we figure out how we're gonna do that in
I
the
will
future. I don't know how
email him
Will's
and
feeling.
see.
But if he needs to shed any of those, he took on,
Yeah.
almost all of them, whether he had, I think he was using other towns as a template. We spoke about it, and then he was gonna kinda do some copy paste. But if he's taking on anything like that, if we wind up going to see him or call him on the phone, if he wants to shed any of those things. But I have nothing else.
Nothing else. And the last item is member comments. Does anyone have anything they want to comment on, meetings they went to, travel adventures?
That's all I wanted to know about Lee, was how was the food?
Phenomenal.
Told you.
Yeah.
All
Good.
right,
Good gastronomic experience.
with that, I would
A motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn,
Second.
seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wish to stay? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.